Total Retail's sister brand, Women in Retail Leadership Circle, is proud to announce the release of the 2020 Top Women in Retail Report. The 10th annual list features 36 top women and Women on the Rise honorees, representing the leading women executives in retail today. Download your copy of the 2020 Top Women in Retail list today at mytotalretail.com/resources. Women in Retail Leadership Circle members can access the report by logging into their account at womeninretail.com/research.
Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hi, and welcome to episode 237 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Editor-in-Chief of Total Retail. Joining me today is Steven Borelli, founder and CEO of Cuts Clothing, as well as Carter Shae, Director of Finance at Cuts Clothing. Cuts Clothing is an online men's apparel brand that has been the first to accessorize the basic tee. We're going to be discussing how Cuts Clothing is optimizing the product return experience for its customers. Thanks for joining me, Steven and Carter.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
So I think a good place to start would be to have the two of you briefly tell our audience a little bit about Cuts Clothing for those that aren't familiar with the brand.
Yes, Cuts is a direct-to-consumer online men's brand. We focus on delivering premium shirts to men across the world. We were founded in late 2016. And we've been a business now for about 3 years, based in LA. And a little bit about the background of the business. So it started out with four key employees, and we've grown to a team of 12. And we're really excited for what's next.
And you mentioned direct to consumer. Is that 100% of the distribution? Do you also sell wholesale or any other channels?
We're exclusively on our .com.
Has that been the case since the business launched?
We did launch on Kickstarter, so I guess that was technically not our own website, but outside of that, yes, it's exclusively on cuts.com.
Gotcha. So then I'm also interested in the kind of the background of the company. You mentioned this is a pretty much a new startup business. Tell us a little bit about your professional backgrounds and kind of what inspired you to start the business.
Yeah, so I told this story before on some other podcasts, and I think this really shows a lot about how we started the business as a true need. I was working at a advertising agency in San Diego, and at the time, we had some Fortune 500 companies, and a lot of the employees were men 28 to 50, and everyone was wearing a nice t-shirt, nice jeans, and shoes. And it became a hot topic of, hey, where could you find shirts to wear to work that look professionally enough to be at work and nice enough to go on a happy hour with clients? And, it became a tough thing to find. It was either you wear a sporty type minimalist shirt, but a lot of times it would look weird with a nice pair of shoes and nice pair of jeans, or you could find one-offs here and there, but there wasn't a place you could consistently find minimalist premium shirts for work. And at that period, I had the itch to start my own business. And once I kind of realized, hey, this is a real problem. It was sort of like finding, something very rare. It was very glaring to me that I needed to start the business, and it became an issue I would ask a lot of my friends about, and they would say, "Yeah, I couldn't find it." So then I was 26 at the time. I moved back home to Washington State with my parents, and started working on the business, and that's where me and Carter reconnected. Me and Carter were friends growing up, but he went to Washington State University and then graduated from UW with an accounting degree, and then a master's in accounting. And then at that time, I was barely starting the business. We had just finished the Kickstarter, and I really needed help from a financial standpoint. And Carter can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like Steven said, I have a background in accounting. So I went a little more traditional route of business school in college, and then worked for a Big Four accounting firm right after that. And then was living in Seattle, and decided to move back home to be closer to family and friends. And I found a finance job in just outside of Seattle in our hometown. And so was living there for about a year when Steven reached out, and he had said, he started this Kickstarter and just needed a little bit of help on sort of the business side of it versus more the brand side. And so it started out with just like a few projects, and as it went, we found it was a really good fit, and so it kind of just organically grew from there.
And I think this might be relative to the listeners and this is Steven again. At that time I knew how to sell the product and make the product, but I didn't know how to, understand financials. And we have this much money in the bank account. This is how much we could spend. And when we brought Carter on, he really gave the business discipline and how to spend, but it also internal allowed us to continue to know when to push it. So just as much as it allowed us to save money and be smart with it, it allowed us to really understand how hard we could push it and grow. And to this point, we haven't taken any outside funding, and we really just focused on selling one shirt at a time. And it's been a fun 3-year journey so far.
Yeah, and it sounds like a good pairing. As you mentioned, you kind of Steven had that brand experience working at the agency and kind of had the creative chops, so to speak, and then what Carter brought to the table was the kind of the business smarts behind it and kind of how to kind of handle that side of the business. So the two of you connected and kind of built from there. Yeah,
that's pretty much how it went.
Yep. And then we at that point I was flying back and forth to LA. Working at the time, we did production in the U.S. And then I moved to LA. We were working out of a WeWork, and we were doing our reverse logistics out of a WeWork. And we went from a 1-person office to a 2-person office, and then essentially the whole office was just where our returns were coming from. And then Carter would fly down to LA once a month, and we would take like thousands of shirts and have to organize them and then re-press them, drive them all right there in WeWork, and we would do that till it would be a huge process we had to do, and that was one of the big things we needed happy returns for.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into the next question I had, Steven and Carter, is so obviously this is a D2C business and you're selling online, and it's no secret that product returns have become a major issue for retailers, particularly those in the apparel sector. So talk a little bit about that challenge when it came to product returns and kind of what the, we'll get into the solution in a minute, but maybe set the table a little bit in terms of, product returns, how that impacted the business prior to working with Happy Returns.
So this is Carter again. I'm sure most of your listeners know returns is a huge headache for all companies, especially e-commerce companies. And like the intro, me and Steven said, we weren't like apparel e-commerce experts by any means, but especially me, more of a finance background, I knew very little about returns logistics and just that whole world of reverse logistics. And so getting going as volume picked up, we quickly realized that we needed a scalable solution with returns because, like Steven said, as we were getting returns coming, the more returns meant the more sales. So business was good, but the headache on my end was really taking all these returns. One, how does the customer have a good experience getting the return back to us? And then once it's back to us, how to sort it and inspect it properly, and basically get it ready to resell. so that was a major challenge for us, being a startup, a small team, working out of a WeWork. So, we didn't have a lot of space, and just the cost of the return as well was something that I could see from a finance perspective was something that was going to be a problem if we didn't really find a scalable solution.
I think at the time when we came in, there's a lot of the direct-to-consumer businesses that popped out from 2010 to 2015 were, one-size-fits-all type brands where, they, didn't have multiple SKUs within one product. And then, the 2015 to 2020 brands were like the clothing brands like Cuts. And so in that perspective, I think Cuts was one of the first truly direct-to-consumer brands that had to deal with returns at scale. And especially being a shirt brand, people are just going to order two sizes. There's going to be so much back and forth where we quickly realized how even if our return rate was 5%, it was going to be thousands of shirts a month that we were going to have to check in. And I think the key point, we really needed to find a scalable solution.
Yeah, so let's talk about kind of the business impacts. Prior to working with Happy Returns, you're going through this, and one of the things that strikes me, and you talked a little bit about this, Carter, is the cost aspect, but also kind of just your inventory planning. I would imagine would have been a major challenge because your rate of return, and then to your point, Steven, as a shirt company, customers are probably buying multiple versions of the same shirt and just in different sizes, and then returning what didn't fit right. Can you talk a little bit about cost and kind of inventory planning and some of the other impacts that were apparent from having to deal with so many product returns?
Yeah. You bring up a good point. With our specific product, it's like we said, it's accessorizing the t-shirt. So we just have a ton of SKUs is kind of what makes our business unique is when someone gets on our website, they see, maybe 100 or so shirts, but behind the scenes, there's, tons of different colors, tons of different sizes. And so, inventory purchasing is a challenge. And then, as things start to sell, we have to be careful of what is on the site, because if we have a product on there with, say, only one size, then, a customer, there's only a small portion of customers that's going to, fit their need. And so that was sort of a logistical issue on the front end. And then the back end, the return side is just basically sorting all of these SKUs that come in. And
became a manpower issue too, right? It's just, you're a small team, and, how do you get through that process?
Yeah. I mean, because it's just, it's a lot of sorting, and then, matching each product with a specific order. There's a lot that goes into it when you have a small team and only, essentially it was only a piece of my job at the company. So I mean, like we said, it wasn't something that we could scale, and that became apparent pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah.
And I think one of the things too is the feedback loop to the customer just didn't exist with the old strategy, because if a customer, it got to a point where if a customer wanted a return, we didn't even check if they actually sent it. We just would send them one out, because there was no way with when it was just me and Carter, and even when we had 4 or 5 employees, there was no way we could understand if they returned it and then it got it checked in a manageable time. And so that part of it, when we brought on Happy Returns, was such a good thing for our customer journey and experience, where we would know just right when the customer would return something, and then it wasn't this, well, we don't really know if they return, but to maintain a good customer return process, we just have to send it. So I think from logistically and outward facing, it was a really good thing for for us.
Yeah, so that old process clearly wasn't sustainable as you continue to scale the business and grow. So you mentioned your work with Happy Returns. So, you've identified the problem. Now you're looking to address it, and with a particular solution, you've partnered with Happy Returns. Maybe we want to talk a little bit about what about the solution, the Happy Returns product, was attractive to Cuts.
So when I was struggling to kind of get a solution, I did quite a bit of research on reverse logistics, and essentially when I met with Steven and we were like, look, and it was kind of my department, and he said, we need a solution. The bottom line was we wanted to have the return experience be a positive thing from the customer's perspective. And at that time, it was very negative. Like a customer going through our return experience before, it was something where we weren't retaining the customer. Yeah. We were essentially losing a lot of customers through that. So that was kind of the bottom line. And through my research, I knew that we needed a full stack service because we had the software piece. We had a software piece where a customer could go on the website and say, start a return, but we needed a full stack, basically end-to-end solution, especially with our headcount and just the bandwidth we had at the time. And so, I looked at a couple of vendors, and Happy Returns was really the only one that I found that could offer what we needed as far as a full stack solution. And so, basically went through the demo with them, kind of heard, what they offer. And, the cost up front was more than what we were currently doing, but just from a dollar perspective, but from a time savings perspective, it actually, looking back, it saved us a ton of time. And it ended up turning that negative experience into a positive experience. So yeah, I mean, we onboarded with them, and yeah, I mean, it's been pretty amazing ever since.
And I think the key point of when Carter says, and this is Steven again, when Carter says full stack, we were working with another partner that didn't do the refurbishment side, and so. I mean, to me, that's like the biggest part. Anyone any software can tell you when a customer returns, but that last link of receiving the goods, checking if it's returnable, and then putting it back in your store in a way that the customer wouldn't know that someone tried it on. That to me was the biggest part of what we enjoyed from Happy Returns is the refurbishment side.
So let's talk about the customer experience, and you've referenced that a couple times, Steven. So one, how are Cuts clothing customers using Happy Returns? Let's talk about that. And then kind of the second part of that question is, what have you heard from your customers that have used that, and how have their returns experience been improved?
To start off with the second point there, the feedback's been great so far. I do, a lot of the customer experience area, and so I see all the emails that come in and sort of the customer inquiry side of it. And I mean, Happy Returns has sort of a portal where we can see like a net promoter score, and that's been very high for us. Like in the 95 percentile range. And yeah, I mean, we get very positive feedback, especially in the in-person returns. To your first point, the way our customers are using it is essentially they'll have two options. They'll either be able to return via mail it, sort of like traditional returns are for online. Like if you order anything on Amazon, you would know kind of how that return process is. And so, they can just get a label and send it back via mail, or there's return kiosks that Happy Returns has at different retailers around the nation. And the customer can basically, from our website, look up the closest kiosk to their location, and then they can physically go there and just drop off the return at the store in person. And so that avoids the whole printing off a label and putting it in the mail process. So those are kind of the two ways that a customer can return something. And we've seen really good feedback from the in-person returns. And so we think that's something we try and push, and it's just really easy and convenient for people. And I've actually used it myself with other brands too that use Happy Returns. And a lot of people don't like to print off things or like deal with postage.
Yep.
And then the timing of sending it back, it's at least a couple of days in the mail. So being able to just on a whim look up, okay, where's the nearest location? And then, if somebody's out running errands anyways, they can stop by a store and just drop it off. And then that's pretty much it. They're done. So, our customers have really shown that they love it. And, we've definitely seen our returning customer rate improve because of this.
Yeah, and one last touch point on that is, with us being a direct consumer brand, one of the knocks on all direct consumer brands is lacking like the physical experience. So Happy Returns, although it's not our own store, it can be that physical part of the returns process that we don't have. And as many locations as they are, customers will come up to me when they see me and they say, hey, I got a couple of shirts and, I loved going to the returns bar. It was the first time I used it and it was awesome. That's the type of responses we hear. And like Carter said, I use it myself and it's great. So we like that function the best. The mail send is good, but the in-person one, especially if you just don't want to deal with like how to package it, to get it ready to send, you can just send it in somewhere and save, a couple bucks by doing it that way as well.
Yeah. So you guys have both kind of listed off a couple of the different ways that Cuts has benefited since it's partnered with Happy Returns. And Carter, you spoke a little bit about kind of just the time savings you've gotten. And I would imagine then with that time savings, you're able to reinvest in some other areas, that time into some other more critical areas of the business. Steven, you've talked about the customer experience, and having that better returns experience is going to probably exponentially increase your rate of getting that customer to come back and buy again from the brand. So that repeat customer rate's going to go up. If you guys were kind of looking at it holistically, what would you identify as kind of the core benefits that you've seen since you've partnered with the Happy Returns?
I would say. One is just customer satisfaction, and we see that in returning customer rate and just comments we get via email or surveys. And then we also have seen the exchange rate improve versus just returns for refunds because of that premium experience and just the convenience of it. We see a lot more customers exchanging. And especially with our product, the main thing someone returns for us is just the size. Our shirts are, they're more fitted, and so they're a particular style where if the size is right, customers love it. But a lot of times, someone will get it and say, I love the fabric. Love the shirt. It's just a little bit too small or a little bit too big. And so, just being able to get the customer the right size has been, we've seen that help our exchange rate, because it's the convenience factor for the customer means that, if it's a little too big or a little too small, all they need to do is go to Happy Returns or utilize the software on the site. And it shows them, hey, here's the same shirt in a size bigger or a size smaller, or here's a couple other options in a similar style. So that, I think that's probably been the biggest benefit from a customer perspective. From the back end, I would say the biggest benefit is probably like Steven said, the refurbishment piece of just getting a product that has been sold back to be resold, it has been just such a benefit for us because we do see our product as a premium product, and so Happy Returns has people that are essentially preparing the product just like our manufacturer would to be resold.
Yeah.
And I think if there's other store owners, and hi, this is Steven again, that are listening, I think one thing we focus on as a business is do what we're great at and hire what we're not. And I think, or partner with tech companies like Happy Returns, is we knew how to sell items online and how to make amazing shirts, but we weren't the best in class at the refurbishment or the return side. So it allowed us to focus on what we're great at, and it was the missing link of how to be best in class in returns. I think that's the biggest, when it all sums down to, is it saved us time to continue to be a premium brand with a premium returns process, and allows us to put our resources towards the other problems that we have more expertise in.
Yeah, and real quick, just to that point, this is Carter. We did look at doing a lot of the returns side in-house, but like Steven said, Happy Returns, they work with a lot of other brands, and so we found that over the course of the last 12 months or however long we've been working with them, that they've been able to give us insight into just returns in general for e-commerce companies or similar companies to us, and just things to look out for, and just like best in class industry standards that we wouldn't really have known or would have had to learn the hard way from the return side.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And then my final question, this can be outside of our discussion around product returns. This really can extend to all kind of points of the Cuts clothing business. If you're looking at, kind of the focal points as you look to continue to grow the brand, what would be the areas where that have both of yours attention? Is it, you want to touch a little bit upon kind of the strategy in terms of continue to growing the brand? Yeah,
I think the first thing is, I think where a lot of direct-to-consumer brands can kind of go off, on a bad path, is we want to focus and our is continually to be the best shirt company in the world. And I think by reinvesting our resources into continually making a better product, we always want to be first and foremost known for making great shirts. So, I think us, as we grow, and we are going to get into other products, but I think what's most important is that we continually do one thing really, really great, and make sure no one else does it better than us. In terms of tech investments and marketing investments, I think making our website and customer experience on our website, we are investing in some new website. A new website that will be launching in March, and some bigger marketing initiatives with athletes and celebrities that can really help tell our story. But I think for us, the biggest focal point again is just creating truly a brand that people think and say is the only shirt worth wearing, and really going as deep as possible on that.
Yeah, kind of differentiating the brand, from the quality of the product and the experience.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Steven Borelli and Carter Shae of Cuts Clothing for joining me today. Please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcast, for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. But make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Also, please take the time to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.
Total Retail's sister brand, Women in Retail Leadership Circle, is proud to announce the release of the 2020 Top Women in Retail Report. The 10th annual list features 26 top women honorees representing the leading women executives in retail, as well as 10 Women on the Rise honorees, who are all-star executives primed to become tomorrow's industry leaders. The list features exclusive interviews with all honorees, offering an introspective look at some of the brightest minds in the retail industry. Download your copy of the 2020 Top Women in Retail list today at mytotalretail.com/resources. Women in Retail Leadership Circle members can access the report by logging into their account at womeninretail.com/research.